Morning, good segment of the Canon project. Rather early. I've got some other business to be getting on with later on. Not housework, not chores, but some other bits and pieces. And I've got Tel, the original Godfather himself, kind of donning the Canon 4 TV merch. Wonderful stuff, Tel. We are going to be joined shortly by brother Isaac, but listen, we're going to go live. I mean, there's two of us. Nobody can hold us back, Tel. Nobody can hold us back.
No.
So we're getting this one on the other side of this music intro. Yes, indeed. Welcome back to an earlier segment of the Canon project and then advertised. What does that make me sound like a TV channel? But anyway, yeah, on this what's today? Today's Monday. I don't know where I'm coming or going till. It's just been one of those days, Tel. Anyway. I've got the original Godfather himself with me. Tel, how have you been keeping?
I'm good. I've just said to you there, I've been building fences that came down during the storm. So I've been doing a bit of that, and I've been digging out all the old hats. And actually, in the meantime, I joined the Clare Arsenal Supporters Club, which is on Facebook. And I did put a message on just over half an hour ago to say that I'm on Canon fodder today. And of course, Tim was on from Scariff. Tim was on last Friday, wasn't
Friday.
he?
Yeah.
So, of course, the more I think about it, we can talk about it during the programme because I'm sure Clare people will be interested. There are obviously so many Arsenal supporters around different parts of Clare and Limerick and so on. And it's good for them to know that there's a special link between Canon fodder and County Clare. I mean, obviously, it's myself and Tim are the ones that have been contributors to the channel. But if people get to sort of know us and get to know how we do things, then I'm sure at some point you can invite a few on.
Yeah. Of course, we've got to vet you. Got to be vetted first. If your name ain't on a door, you ain't coming in. We'll vet you first.
Actually, while we're there, I mean, I know that people will be interested in these colours, especially with what's going on in Ukraine.
Yeah.
This is one of my older Clare hurling team shirts. Well, the football team play the same, the GAA, and it's very much similar colours to the Ukraine flag. And this is the more recent kit. I mean, to be honest, it's getting a bit like following Arsenal. They keep changing the kit, So this is probably not the most recent one. I bought this a couple of years ago. But yeah, we play in saffron and blue. And funny enough, I'll tell you a quick story. Back in the day, when they threw all the North Bank supporters up into the clock end and they did a redevelopment of the North Bank, our change kit was the deep yellow with a blue bar across the middle. So I turned up and the place was full of complete crazy people, nutters, and people spoiling for a fight all the time. No, they were fine, but they were a little bit edgy, And I turned up in this kit, which was very similar to our away kit of the time. And of course, I got comments like, "Where's that from?" And that's them being polite. Where's that from? So I said, "That's from County Clare," and they went, "You always got to pause," and then they went, "What?" It's the pause always got me. What? And there's quite a tradition, actually, of as you will know, of Irish people that moved over back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, even the early 80s. And there's a lot of links with different parts of Ireland and Clare. And I found out recently, you might have heard of a guy that played for Everton called Kevin Sheedy. And Kevin Sheedy's Everton Cup final shirt, he won the cup wearing an Everton kit back in the day. And his cup final kit is in the Clare Museum, which is in Ennis.
Wow.
But what I didn't know which I think it was Tim told me. He was actually, his parents were from Balliet, or they settled back in Balliet, which is where my mum was from, which is just outside Ennis. So in a funny kind of a way, there's another big link there with me and Balliet and so on. So we can include Kevin Sheedy. And I've got so many wonderful, funny stories. Actually, if you've got time at some point during this podcast, I would like to tell you the story of Brian McDermott, who played for Arsenal and had massive Clare links. Do you want me to launch into it now? Or?
Yeah, but I just want to ask you a quick question, Tel. Yeah. Back in the day, did you play hurling? Would you?
Well, there's a funny story there. My dad and I went. He was an Ennis man, and we went into Ennis one day when I was a young lad, and he said, "I'm going to buy you your first hurley." They didn't call them hurls in them days. Now sometimes they shorten it. So anyway, he bought me these hurls, which I've shown to Tim, and they're quite old-fashioned because at the base of them, it's called the boss. The boss is much bigger now. In those days, it was much thinner, slightly closer to a hockey stick. Anyway, we used to go over. I lived in Highbury, of course, and our nearest park was Clissold Park, which technically was across the border in Hackney. And my dad and I'd be about 10 or 11, and we'd go over and we'd stand 40 yards apart. We have a special ball called a schlitter, and we'd whack that from one to the other, you know. And it's a wonderful feeling, you know, and we'd be whacking it away. And then I looked to my left, and there was a whole load of people standing watching us. And their first question was, "What's that game?" But obviously, if they were Irish, they wouldn't have asked because they would have known straight away. So, but anyway, the Brian McDermott story. I went to when I lived. Well, I lived in Highbury for a long time. Of course, grew up there, and I'd go to the home games. But if the away game was a long way away, I wouldn't often go. Maybe if it was a quarter-final or a semi-final of the cup, I might go. But if it was like that, I'd go to watch the reserves, and it was good fun seeing the players come through. I saw Charlie George when he had short hair. Everybody thinks of him as having long hair. He had what they used to call a crew cut in those days. But anyway, I'm at this reserve game, late 70s, and I'm a young lad myself, you know, and I thought I lived so close, I could wait for 6-7 minutes before the match started, before I decided if I'd leave home and go and watch a match. So I went in, and I'm sitting in the West Lower. If anybody watching knows the old Highbury Stadium, I'm in the West Lower, and I kind of wanted to have I want to be on the halfway line so I could have a good view. And I kind of sat in beside a woman and her husband, and I had a cracking view in line almost with the players' tunnel. So the match goes ahead. I can't remember what match it was now. But as the players go off, this is the reserve team now, the woman next to me starts waving to a player. And I said to her, "Do you know one of the players?" And she said, "Yeah, I'm Brian McDermott's mum." So, great. So Brian, by the way, broke through into the first team in about 79, 80, 81. And there's a whole long story about him I can tell. But anyway, he did become a first teamer and played a good few matches for us. He became Reading manager at a later date. And I think he beat Liverpool in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup with Reading and so on. And anyway, this woman next to me was Brian's mum. So I got chatting. There's brother Isaac. Hi, brother Isaac.
Hi.
Yeah.
Finally, I made it.
You have to be careful. My dad used to be quite frightened of people being called brother because he went to a place called Christian Brothers School in Ennis, and sort of brothers were a bit heavy-handed. Let's put it politely. But anyway, so this woman said, "Yeah, I'm Brian's mum," and of course I picked up the Irish accent, and I said, "Where are you from?" She said, "Clare, County Clare." And her husband, I'll never forget, her husband was as bald as an egg. And he was from Sligo and an ex-boxer. So he didn't talk a lot, but the mum was always, I'd go on a regular basis and we'd talk about, I told her my mum and dad were from Clare, and we became really good friends, you know. And then I'd meet Brian occasionally after the match. They'd say, come with us, and when Brian comes out, you can chat to him. And I've got loads of stories that Brian told me that are really amazing, eye-opening stories. But just one little quick story, and then I can relate the others in subsequent programs and so on.
Yeah.
Just one little story that really tickled me, because I've become very friendly with Brian's mum and Brian. I knew Brian quite well. And I've got all the inside information on what it's like to be a footballer. He played in the League Cup semi-final at Tottenham and all of that stuff. So I really got the inside information. But of course, there was no internet. You couldn't share it with anybody in those days. You just might mention it to your mates. But it didn't kind of, it didn't mean a lot in those days. It was just somebody that you kind of knew. Now it's a story you can relate on the internet.
Yeah.
So anyway, he'd broken into the first team, and there was one particular match right at the end of the season that Aston Villa won the league, and they played the final match at Highbury, and they were guaranteed league champions. And Brian had broken into the first team, so this must be, you can look it up, it must be 80-81 time. And so they were definitely going to be crowned champions after the match, win, lose or draw. And Arsenal beat them 3-1. And Brian scored a brace, scored 2 goals. And he was a smallish guy. His hero was Kenny Dalglish, he told me. But he was I thought he was a bit too light to be Kenny Dalglish. Kenny Dalglish was quite a big unit, even though he wasn't very tall. But anyway, around about this time, maybe a season or two later, a friend of mine, again, Irish people, she was from Louth and her husband was from Northern Ireland somewhere, in Skinner or somewhere. They came down to London, and their daughter was a big Arsenal fan. So I said, well, if you want to go and watch Arsenal, I'll take you. But of course, the match, it was the start of the season, so it was August. And it was a Wednesday evening match. I said, we're playing Southampton, but it's away at Southampton. If you want to go, I'll take you. So she said, great. So we went to Waterloo, got on the train down to Southampton, got to the turnstiles about 5:30. I thought, I'll go in early and make sure I can get a ticket. And the bloke goes, no, mate. No, there's no tickets, mate. Since Kevin, they just signed Kevin Keegan. Since Kevin Keegan's arrived, all the tickets are sold. It's an all-ticket match. I said, this girl's come down from Leicester, and then she's come down to London, and I brought her down here, and I can't get in. So he said, look, all I can suggest is you go to the main booking office place, you know. So I went up there, and they said, no, mate, there's no hope. Oh, this girl was deflated. I was deflated. One, because she was. And then I thought, well, I've brought her all this way. And I remember going to get a burger with her. And it's hard to eat a burger when you're that disappointed. Chips. And I said to her, look, all we can do is we'll go up to the stadium and we'll watch when the Arsenal coach comes in, and we'll just wave to the players. At least you get to see the players. Because in those days, the coach, like nowadays, the coaches go inside the ground and you don't get to see them. But in those days, the coach would pull up outside and the players would troop off, you know. So so we stood there waiting for the coach. And this is about maybe 20 to 7, quarter to 7 for a 7:30 kickoff. The next minute, there's a tap on my shoulder. Terry, how's it going? Look round. Brian's mum. Brian McDermott's mum and dad. Oh,
wow.
Great to see you, lads. How's it going? You know, and I said, great. I said, oh, this friend of mine, her niece has come down, but unfortunately, and as I said it, I thought, oh no, I shouldn't really tell them that we can't get in, but I half said it. So I said, yeah, we come all the way down and we couldn't get a ticket. It's all sold out. And she says, oh, don't worry about that. She says, when Brian and the team come in, I'll get some tickets. I went, no, you know, you feel terrible. You don't want to lean on a friendship, you know. I said, no, please, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And she said, oh, listen, we'll get it. So you're going to love this story, right? The team coach comes in and the players are getting off. And there was a lot of Arsenal players that were Irish in those days. There was probably O'Leary in that team, John Devine, who was from Dublin. He played right back. I mean, you name it. There were so many Irish players and Northern Ireland people, you know, Pat Rice and so on. So anyway, the players come off. And as Brian gets off, Brian's mum calls him over. She said, Brian, I need your help. Terry's come down with a friend and they can't get a ticket. Can you get a ticket for him? And he said, oh, mum. You know, like the thing that you ask your kid and they keep like, oh, no.
So embarrassed me, Mum.
So he says, oh, Mum, he said, I've given my tickets away. But he said, hang on, I'll go in. By this time, the rest of the players had swooped past him into the changing room. So he said, I'll go in and see if anybody's got any left. So sure enough, fair play to him. He came back about 2 or 3 minutes later with 2 tickets. And he said, I got them off John Devine. So brilliant. Thanks, John. And then I said, look, can I pay you for this? No, they wouldn't accept money. And then Brian's dad said to me, he said, you look totally embarrassed and you're in a right state. I'm going to bring you for a pint. So I never forget, we went into a pub very near the ground and it was almost like someone's house. Pubs in those days sometimes were like somebody's house got converted into a pub. And there was like just household wallpaper and settees and stuff, but it was a pub. And I said, I'll get these to his dad. No. And so he got me the pint and got his wife a drink and got this girl a drink and whatever. And I thought, I don't believe this. I said, I've come down here and I've got 2 free tickets. I'm sitting with what will be called wags, is it? Wives and girlfriends and mums and dads. And the dad wouldn't take no for an answer and bought me a pint. So anyway, we went into the ground and say a lovely summer's evening, sort of late August. And where they put the wags and all of that is right up in the rafters. You're right up a long way from the players, but it was, free, crying out loud, So we sat there looking forward to the match. And you know what happened?
What happened?
We lost 3-1.
That would teach you a lesson, Tel.
Yeah. But, just as a corollary to that, Brian has often said that his biggest mistake was to listen to Don Howe. Now, Don Howe was the trainer and then he became manager. And Don had said to him, and Kenny Sansom, I think, as well, had said to him, look, you're a cracking player. Go for England. Don't go for Ireland. Go for England under 21s and so on. And he often says, and I thought he'd made a mistake. And I've said it, I think, whether I said it to his mum or not, I can't remember. It might have been too rude to say it. But I remember thinking at the time, this is not a good idea. Because if he gets to play for Ireland's under 21s and then Ireland's full team, then he's cut himself out of career, a bit like the way Shane Long has done. He's never been a super player, but he's always been ticking around different clubs. He's got international experience and so on. And Brian, to this day, says he wishes he hadn't made that decision. In particular, Don Howe influenced him, and he wished he'd have gone for Ireland. So anyway, one last quick thing about him.
Very quick, because we've got to move on, Tel.
Yeah. I was trying to think what part of Clare Brian was from. And the mum must have told me, but I can't remember. But I do know that he used to go a lot to a place called Dirty Nelly's, which is by a big castle, Bunratty Castle. And he'd go in there, a very trendy place to sort of eat and drink. So I suspect they were down by maybe Limerick, Clonlara area. I'm not really sure, but the dad was definitely Sligo. So there you are, a massive link between County Clare and Arsenal.
Nice one, Tel. Brilliant, nice one. Brother Isaac, thank you for being patient. How was your day? Work?
My day was great. Just arrived home. Just took my shoes off to get on the show.
Thank you. I appreciate
Alex,
it.
do you have a twin brother who's doing another show behind you? Can see a screen behind you.
Yeah.
There is another Alex doing a show.
It's from yesterday's show I did. Well, a twin brother, but yeah, it's the show from yesterday.
I was thinking that you had a twin brother who's doing a show in a submarine somewhere.
Oh, very good, Isaac. Very good.
Yeah, it's probably anchored outside the Crimea currently,
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the segments. A little bit of a repetition from yesterday in regards to Abramovich and the situation happening in the Ukraine and Russia. But I want to get the panel's thoughts in regards to Roman Abramovich, who says, in his own words, that he is handed stewardship and care of Chelsea to the charitable foundation. And there is another statement that he made, I think was it yesterday or the day before. And the statement reads as follows. He says, during my 20-year ownership of Chelsea FC, I've always viewed my role as a custodian of the club, whose job is to ensure that we are successful as we can be today, as well as build for the future, while also playing a positive role in our communities. Abramovich said that in a statement addition to that, I've always taken decisions with the club, the best interest at heart. I remain committed to see these values. That is why I am today giving trustees of the Chelsea's Charitable Foundation the stewardship and care of Chelsea FC. Now, Isaac, I don't want to try and get too political, but what's your thoughts about Abramovich passing over the ownership to the charitable foundation, Chelsea FC? Your thoughts?
Sorry, Alex.
He got stuck in a torpedo tube. Hang on.
There's like a network, something to do with the network. I could hear you clearly towards the end of it.
Right, yeah. Your thoughts about Abramovich saying that he's passing, ownership over to, stewardship of Chelsea FC to the charitable foundation. What's your thoughts about that?
Well, first, I'd love to say that I stand with my Ukrainian brothers because I know it must be a hard time for them. Abramovich, I tend to think in his capacity, he had to pass on the baton to the board so that they can oversee the management of the club, because I believe as things stand, there might be challenges here and there. So him handing the team over to the trustees was the best thing that he could do, because there are other unseen things that could come up, might be of an issue or might prove an issue, because in the past there have been issues with him when he could not get his ship. There was a time that he was held somewhere and he went to retrieve his ship. So given that he is of Russian origin and all that is going on, there are other things that could come up that we might not see at the moment. But when they come up, they might be at the expense of the club. So for him, it was best for him to pass on the baton to the board or to the trustees to run the club, because they are better positioned at this time to give. Is like to people will see a different image, and like when he is in the limelight and all that is happening with Russia.
And there's been some additional news as well, Isaac, with FIFA and UEFA. They're saying that, the Champions League finals is now been moved from St. Petersburg, which is, I understand, Putin's home town, and changed to Paris. Is it not too little too late for you, Isaac, or you think they're doing what they can do? Is it too little too late?
They're doing what they can do at the moment, because internationally it is an ugly scene that is going on. All that is going on is creating chaos over the internet and is disrupting peace. And watching some of the videos that are going around about the situation in Ukraine is actually heartbreaking. So it is what it is, as they say.
Yeah.
So they had to get it out of Russia to France. Actually, I couldn't see it happening in Russia.
Money talks, Isaac. Money talks. Even the Olympics as well. I can't remember the guy who's the chairman of the IOC, but over the last few days, have been showing pictures with Putin with various people high in across the sports arena. But tell your thoughts with Abramovich part
Well,
of stewardship over to the charitable foundation.
very, very naughty of him. What he's doing is he's making sure that the goose that laid the golden egg is still going to be laying it in his bank account, if you excuse the mixed metaphor. I have no time for people like him. Listen, there was a time when rich people were important, and our club, if you go back in the history, Sir Henry Norris took us as a tiny little club, Woolwich Arsenal, out there in the wilds of Kent, and spotted a little place called St. John's Divinity College in Highbury. And he bought that out, which is why the Clock End used to still be known as the college when I started going. And but now with this stadium that we have now, we bought it. The fans bought it. It was completely paid for by. Okay, we're still paying off on it, but Kroenke didn't have to put his hand in his pocket and pay a penny for the actual building of it, because the sort of fans did it. So to be honest, it's crazy, really, what Abramovich and people have done. They've rode in and jumped on the bandwagon of easy money. And listen, don't forget this: us Arsenal fans, we are paying the world's highest admission prices in the whole world. It's a tautology there, but we are paying an enormous amount of money just to go and watch a football match. That is absolutely crazy. Our owner has said he didn't buy Arsenal to win trophies, so he bought Arsenal to make more money. Money makes money. So I have no truck with the likes of Kroenke, Abramovich, Usmanov. Of course, had Usmanov bought it, he's in the same bag as Abramovich now. They mentioned 25 Russian oligarchs who have dubious backgrounds to their financial state, and they were mentioned in Parliament. You can't mention it outside of Parliament if you're an MP, but they included Usmanov, who of course has a stake with his partner Mashiri in Everton. So we're going through bad times, and I mean, please God, the thing will calm down out there in Ukraine, and please God, it'll all end up okay. But I don't know. We're right in the maelstrom of that. But I would say, in terms of ownership of our club, Kroenke thinks that not only has he bought the team and the stadium and the training ground, which of course was brought from the profits of the Nikola Anelka transfer. What he hasn't bought is our hearts. What he hasn't bought is our hearts. And at some stage, if he carries on the way he's going, a lot of the fans are I think, are going to walk. I think they're going to say there's got to be a different way of doing this. But money makes money, unfortunately. And I know people I've been speaking to them online around Clare, they love going over to London to see Arsenal play. Of course they do. I just feel it's sad that instead of the money going into the club, at the end of the day, it's a private company now, owned by Kroenke. We don't know what he does with our money. It's all. It doesn't have to be. It's not a public limited company anymore. And it's such a shame when you think when you and I, Alex, started supporting, you had a board of directors who were there as trustees and would do their best. But that's gone, and I have it on good authority, but I can't say from whom. There are ructions at the moment in the not the playing staff, but in the staff who work for Arsenal. There are a lot of ructions going on. I'll just leave it at that because I don't want to break any confidences, but it's not good. Kroenke and the way he works is ripping through the sort of people, the backroom staff, and they're not happy. And it's bad news. I don't really want to go into it any more than that, but this shouldn't happen at our club.
But back in the, I mean, before I started supporting Arsenal, has there ever been fan representation on the board?
Well, not really.
No.
I mean, and it tends to be a talking shop. I mean, the guy that I have a lot of time for is Ken Fryer. Now, Ken Fryer went to our old school, which was Highbury County and then became Highbury Grove. And as you cross one of the bridges, the bridge nearest to the tube station, there's a sort of there's a statue of him as a kid kicking a football and loads of stuff about him, Ken Fryer. And he's of the old school, and he does worry about every member of staff, you know, down to the people who are just there on match days and so on. So, but unfortunately, the board are only there in a titular way now. They're not really they don't have any power. The directors have absolutely no power because it's owned lock, stock and barrel by Stanley Kroenke. So it's not good news. And if he keeps pushing it, people will. I mean, we've spoken a few times about this. Clubs do try to restart as Phoenix clubs. I know Manchester United have restarted, but it's not really worked very well as United of Manchester, is it FC? And they play in the old Manchester United colours, the green and yellow.
Yeah, yellow.
They've restarted. Of course, Arsenal have been restarted as Dial Square, which was our original name before we became Woolwich Arsenal. But there's, I'm not sure how well that's doing. And to me, the only club that has really done the Phoenix Club transformation has been AFC Wimbledon. Yes. And of course the AFC doesn't stand for Athletic Football Club, it stands for a fans club where the fans own it. So that's at the heart of good sport. I think that the fans have a say, the fans are the owners, and we don't need, Arsenal have proved it, we don't need billionaire people to come in and bankroll us. Because all that does with Abramovich is it inflates transfer prices, it inflates admission prices, and who benefits? Well, it's not the poor man or woman or mum or dad who's trying to get their kid in to see a game. It's an enormous outlay to bring yourself, your family, and maybe your kid will want a bit of merchandise. You know, somebody got me a ticket for the Royal Opera a while ago, two tickets for my wife and I, very expensive, and they got us for free. And I was saying to her the other day, and the way it's going to be cheaper to go and watch the Royal Opera at the Royal Opera House, Covent Garden, than it is to go and watch Arsenal. That's mad.
Yeah. Talking about money and prices, there has been some is it breaking news? Probably breaking news. Arsenal, after holding general admissions ticket prices flat for 7 consecutive seasons, all season tickets and matchday tickets will be going up by 4% from the season of 22-23. This is the first stadium-wide price increase that we have had since 2014. Tickets to the Carabao Cup will remain at £5 and £10 for concessions, and £10, £20 for adults. We will continue to subsidise away Premier League tickets for our fans to £26. Isaac, how do you think that will go down amongst the fan base? Price increase.
The fan base are going to be raging. We are going to be very, very, very angry. Inflating the actually trying to make a connection with them, and then you do this to them, you're going to create that rift again, because there was a great rift between the club and the fans. Now that the club is doing good and they're trying to bring the fans closer, now Kroenke wants to dip more into the pockets of the fans. It's going to create a rift. People will be watching from home, because if you go out there and they're inflating all the price again and again, it's going to be hectic. There are people who are working around budgets, and there are people who are sacrificing to get their families into these matches. You know, not everybody can afford a season-long ticket. There are those who buy tickets once in a while. People will be watching from home because of the inflated prices.
Isaac, I mean, I've never held a season ticket in my life. All the years I've been supporting Arsenal. But if you had a season ticket, Isaac, would you give it up for the sake of the direction that the owners are going? Would you say, I'm willing to sacrifice my season ticket?
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Because if they're keeping inflating the prices at this rate, I'll give up my season-long ticket and only buy tickets for those important matches, those that I view very important. Those are the ones that I'll be going to.
Yeah. So,
well, it's all right if you're living in London and you've got 3 jobs, you can probably just about get by, and you can probably afford a season ticket without too much trouble. But if you're a family man or woman and you're trying to juxtapose your spare time, and these tickets are expensive. They are. And I mean, to be honest, for the amount you pay, the experience is very poor. Very, very poor. I mean, as you know, I had a ticket up in the West End. Reasonable view, kind of in line with the penalty area and that, at the North Bank end. Reasonable view. And that was fine. But then after a match, especially on a winter's night, anytime from November through to about now, and it was one of these Champions League matches against a team that nobody had ever heard of, and the only way they could pronounce it was to call them the team Carrier Bag or something. Do you remember Carrier Bag? Everybody was calling them Carrier Bag. And after the match, yes, you could roar away up to the 12 pins where a lot of the fans and the Irish fans might go up at Finsbury Park, or you might stay in the stadium. But if you stay in the stadium, there's nowhere to sit. They kick you out of the seated area and you go into the bar area. And I remember being there with a freezing cold pint in my hand, chatting to some lads, and I'm thinking, anywhere to sit? No, nowhere. So I did do one season, as you know, in club level.
Yeah.
And of course, that's great. There's an escalator. Everybody's saying hello. There's hello, sir. Good night, cheerio, and all that stuff. You get all of that wonderful treatment, free program, and all that stuff. You get a free drink at half time. I went with our mutual friend. I won't say his name because it's embarrassing. But
you got me thinking now.
He told me he used to try and drink as many pints as possible because they're all free. How many are you going to drink? Oh, I'll have about 4. Hang on, 1, 2, quick. You've only got 2 minutes. And then I used to stay behind. It was nice. You stay behind. You could have yourself a pint at incredibly inflated prices. Or I sometimes used to get a hot chocolate, and I'd be chatting to people that got sofas to sit on. Sometimes they have a live band playing music. All very civilized, all very nice. But that's you're paying, I don't know, anything up to. I think the dearest at club level was about 6,000 or 7,000, and I think it went down to about 3,000. So you're paying a lot of money. You're paying a lot of money there for the privilege of going up and down an escalator, which they used to switch off. Actually, they'd switch that off, so you have to walk down a normal flight of stairs. But that was a reasonable experience, and it was nice and warm. Not out where you were sitting, but once you went in at half time and after the match. Then you could sit in comfort and watch the highlights on the tellies and so on.
It comes at a price, doesn't it, Tal? It comes at a price.
That comes at a ridiculously high price.
Yeah.
And what worries me is that if you trace us all the way back to sort of Woolwich and then our move to Highbury, was it in 1913? It was always a sport that the average guy or woman or average person could put their hands in their pocket, have enough money to be able to. I remember going as a young lad, and you'd never be breaking the bank to go and watch Arsenal.
Yeah.
It'd be when you're a teenager, yes, it would. You'd be either doing a Saturday job to afford it, but now it's a whole different ball game, and I do worry that young people are not getting in the habit. My son, for instance, him and his mates, although none of them are West Ham fans, they go off to, what's it called, the London Stadium, the one they used in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And he said, Dad, you can park near it. There's a multi-story car park. It's 20 quid. You're in, and it's quite nice. He said, you see a match, game of football, Now, he's no West Ham fan. I'd have him out the house if he was. But, this is what these young lads do. They just go and see a football match. Quite right. I used to do that. In fact, I was saying to Tim, one of the advantages of living in London, and there aren't many, believe me, because most people just work and work and work and work and work, But as you can, or in the past, you used to be able to go and see matches. So I'd go and see QPR against Liverpool, or I don't know, Fulham against Everton or something. You could go from go and see different matches. Of course, you can't do that now because you have to have a season ticket. So it's a whole different thing now, and it's a real shame. And I don't like the way it's going. I mean, this conversation started with what's happening with Abramovich, and basically you've got a plutocrat there. You've got somebody who's unbelievably rich, along with Kroenke and so on, and they are making money. Or I'm not sure about Abramovich, because for him it's a vanity project. He's putting an enormous amount of money into Chelsea, but it's distorting the market. And as I said earlier, it makes players like Lukaku was a crazy price, absolute mad price to be paying. Whereas Kroenke won't be playing that game at all. He's just there along for the sort of financial ride, really. But as far as I'm concerned, he hasn't bought my soul, and if he continues the way he's going, then I don't know. I mean, I'm at the moment, anybody from Clare watching this, I was helping Tim Hogan from Scariff, and we were training up along with a guy called Alan Maher from Ogonolo and a couple of the fathers of the boys in the team, this under-13 hurling team. And they won the county championship was it October? And that was a thrill. It was absolute. I got everything from that. And the final, we got to the final and we scored a goal and a point within the first 2 minutes. And I was just as thrilled watching that as I would be, watching Arsenal. So, Stanley should be very, very careful, Stanley Kroenke, because he's going to turn people off following Arsenal, because they begin to see that there's something wrong and something rotten at the heart of how these oligarchs are buying clubs and running them. And it's wrong both ways. It's wrong if you're philanthropic, as it seems that Abramovich is, and he's pumping money into Chelsea and buying players at crazy prices. But it's also wrong at the other end of the spectrum, where you get your Kroenke buy the club and then basically loading anything. Anytime he comes to Europe, you can bet Arsenal are paying for it. You can bet they're putting him up in the Dorchester and all this stuff. Well, you're doing that. I'm doing that. Anybody that's paying into Arsenal, buying the merchandise, going to a match, you're helping him, and it shouldn't be like this. Sports should be for the whole community. That's what I personally believe. We've still got that in Ireland. People complain about the GAA, but that's small fare compared to what's going on in the EPL and in Italy and places. So be careful, Stanley, because you can kill the goose that laid the golden egg.
Yeah. Just like in the new segments on this kind of funny note. Stella McCartney, daughter of Paul McCartney, has designed this trainer based on Arsenal merchandise. Oh my goodness.
They're all getting in on it.
Isaac, would you buy it? Would you buy the trainers? I take it as a no.
Do you know what? We should get a pair of them for our parish priest, Alex. I just see him coming out in all his regalia and a pair of Arsenal sneakers on him.
Wow. Actually, Alex, I'd like you to meet my twin brother.
Come on.
Hey,
how are you?
Hey.
Fine.
Hi,
Live and direct from Kenya. How are you?
Fine. What of you?
Yeah, you support Arsenal, right?
We are also fine.
Okay.
Actually, that's my dad.
That's your dad? Hi,
yes.
Dad.
Is he two of you in a torpedo tube, is it?
That's my dad. Eh?
All
So,
right.
over here in our culture, because I'm the firstborn, he's my brother.
Ah,
All right.
that's a
That's
lovely
good,
idea.
man. That's good. That's good. That's good. But he supports Arsenal, right, Isaac?
No, he's a Man United fan.
I thought he was
Oh,
hesitating. Isaac, what's your first language?
My first language is Kisi.
Right,
That is my mother tongue.
we're gonna have to find a song in your mother tongue. I'll learn it. Just point me in the direction of it, and we can include it in a subsequent program.
that's a good idea.
Okay, so I speak three. That is Gusi, Swahili, and English.
Ah,
Yeah.
Yeah.
is Siahumba? Is that Swahili?
Swahili is. Sorry?
Kukanyeni Kwenkos.
No. Swahili is a more of is a mixture. Is a hybrid. It was a hybrid of Bantu and Swahili people.
Well, I'll look through my songs because I've definitely got a few Swahili songs, so I'll dig one out for you.
Nice one, Tel. Nice one. That's a good idea, actually. That's a really good idea. So Isaac, would you buy those trainers?
No.
No. All right. Okay. What's wrong with them?
Wow.
Don't worry about it. Tell for you.
It looks like somebody's trodden in a bucket of red paint.
Paint.
I'd be embarrassed to wear them. I'd be embarrassed to walk alongside anybody wearing them.
Oh dear. Well, they're going to be launched quite soon. They're going to be launched quite soon. You'll see them in the armory actually very, very soon. Stella McCartney. Ah, my goodness. Anyway, so Isaac, you want to say something?
They should have asked for our input before they put that out.
Yeah.
As Tel said, it's like someone stepped on paint.
I'll give you one thing about Stella McCartney. Her father can write a good song.
Yeah, and that's just about it, isn't it? Right, let's go into a live chat for the first time. See how quick we can wrap up this one. Kwame says Arsenal one game. One game? What do you mean? What does it mean, one game? I'm not sure what you mean.
One game to top four. We win one game and we're in number 4.
Oh, right. Okay. Referee helping Man City. There's something to do with a handball against Everton, and Frank Lampard's quite upset about it. And
actually, I was reading today, and like the Liverpool fans, the Chelsea fans, the Man United fans are on the referee's case. Given that Lampard said even a 3-year-old could see that was a handball. Actually, there are some decisions that go against some clubs. Like ourselves, there was a handball in the Brentford game? There was a handball, yes, in the Brentford game.
Oh,
and it wasn't given as a handball. The same thing happened during the Man United game. It was given a handball. It was like, really? Why these inconsistencies? Because it was the same case. The hand was coming down, was given handball for Man United, was not given a handball for us. And I was like, if we have got to go for these top 4, we have got to fight for it ourselves. We've got to win it the clean way, because we cannot depend on VAR to be on our side, because we've seen in most cases there have been inconsistencies in red cards, in handballs, in penalties. We're not given it. It has not been in our favor since its inception.
So, do you think we're worse off, Isaac? Is that what you're trying to say? We're worse off with VAR, or are we better off? Are we worse off? Generally, not only Arsenal, but as a football community, are we worse off with VAR?
Wow, for there are clubs that will really fight for VAR to be there, and there are clubs that don't approve of VR up to this moment, because there are clubs who greatly benefited from VR, and there are others who've been suppressed, like ourselves. If you go back last season and have a view of how many points VR chopped from us, we could be top 4 if it wasn't for VR last season. But because of VR, we were not even top 4. We are not even top 6. So looking at that, if you want to look at from a fan's point of view, I'm not really happy about it. But if you look it from a footballing point of view, to some point it has brought sanity in the game. But the management of VR needs to be looked at. The consistencies should be there. Actually, looking at the Wolves game, the one we won 2-1, you look at it, the first minute, Martinelli was fouled. VR did not even have a look at it.
But Isaac, like you said, we cannot rely on VAR, can we?
We cannot rely on VR. We have got to play our game and win it. Score three or 4 past them, and they won't chop off the goals. We cannot totally depend on them, because first minute they don't check. But the offside goal, they take a whole minute checking for the Wolves goal. You can see it is clearly offside, but they take a whole minute checking the goal, and they can't go to the monitor to check the possibility of a penalty. Sometimes I fail to understand why is VR even there.
So are you trying to say there's a conspiracy, Isaac, against Arsenal?
Probably Man United fans are watching this, and they'll be on my case that I'm saying that there is a conspiracy against Arsenal. But it is true, VR hasn't worked in our favor for the longest time.
I thought VAR was supposed to make things easier.
No, I mean, in terms of conspiracies, there are it would be very unlikely that football wouldn't be involved in all the kind of gambling and dodgy betting that goes on around the world. And maybe today I won't go through it, but there was a famous match where we played Wimbledon many moons ago, which I know must have been a setup. But I won't. It's a long story. I won't go into that now. But VAR doesn't really. The one thing that does solve a problem is they've got some sort of chip inside the ball. So if the ball crosses the goal line, then the ref gets a buzz on his watch. So that's absolutely fine, and that's good. The problem with VAR is, for a start, we can't hear, unlike in rugby, we can't hear the discussion between the people watching it from with all the different screens and different angles and the ref on the pitch. So I would have thought that's the obvious thing to do, is to open up that conversation so we can hear what's being said. And it does spoil the football experience, because in recent seasons, since they brought it in, say Arsenal would score a goal and you'd all go, yeah. And then you go, oh, hang on, we better wait for the VAR. And that's not what football's about, And in some respects, it should mirror what's happening in street football, where people enjoy the game, they enjoy the goals, they enjoy the thrills and spills, but they don't, in the street game, you don't stand there waiting for somebody to check. I mean, wasn't there, I didn't watch all of the League Cup final, but wasn't there one bit where somebody's arm was slightly offside or something? I mean, and then of course we had the disaster. I still think of when you think about it, that League Cup final went to penalties, which, however exciting it might be, to me it's not true football. It's just a fake way of finishing a game. And then you had the European Championships where England played Italy. And again, you've got our poor old lad, Saka, was one of the players who missed the penalty. And luckily, he didn't get vilified for it. But it just seems to me that if you're going to have a game of football, try try and organise the game, and I've got various ideas for this, but try and organise the game that you get a result in most matches, or but in a big final, for it to be 0-0, however exciting. And then I mean, I took my son to the Man United final, the one where we beat the 5-4 on penalties, and I remember meeting a few Man United supporters in the pub after, and they were spitting fury. They were not happy. It's not a good way to lose anything or win something, really. So we could have a whole program on ways of dealing with, because soccer's biggest weakness, unlike hurling, is it's a low scoring game by and large, unless you go up to Newcastle, establish a 4-0 lead, and then get pegged back to 4-4, which Arsenal did once. But by and large, it's a low scoring game, and of course, if VAR gets it wrong, then that can affect a whole match and the result of a match and so on. And if they don't pick up a foul and so on, like you just mentioned, then instead of getting a penalty, you get nothing. It's not a happy situation. It's not. I mean, they've thought of different ways of doing it. George Graham, out of interest, his idea, it sounds a bit wacky, but he suggested making the actual goals wider, just making the goal bigger, so you've got more of a target. But these guys now, these goalkeepers are like that Chelsea goalkeeper Mendy's 6'5". The guy that came on for him is 6'6". I mean, it's sort of it's mad. It reminds me of, was it W.G. Grace, who realised that he was a famous English cricketer, and he realised that there was no rule against how thick or how wide your cricket bat could be. Yeah. So he got one made at the same width of the stumps and said, "Now try and get me out."
Here's a good question, Isaac, for you, for my brother, actually, who's in the live chat. He says, "Hi, just a scenario about Abramovich situation. What if the shoe was on the other foot and the Arsenal owner was Usmanov? What would you expect him to do? Pass on the stewardship or leave the club?" Isaac.
Pass on stewardship, because right now it could seem it was a chance for the taking, because you look at the situation and you tell him to leave the club. It seems like we were waiting for an opportunity to grab. So I could ask him to give the stewardship, the responsibility to run the club, so that the underlying issues don't come up. Because you look at it, FIFA has temporarily suspended Russia, and I see it could have gone down to Chelsea, affecting Chelsea in some way, or this could also affect Everton in some way. So I'm waiting to see what Everton are going to do after this Abramovich thing.
Oops. And your thoughts, Tel?
Oh, sorry. There was a slight gap there. I thought.
Yeah, sorry.
I thought somebody had pressed the torpedo button there, and you'd gone at it. Yeah, I mean, listen, I hate the fact that these plutocrats, these oligarchs, have come in and made the game more expensive for the average fan. It's well out of order, and it shouldn't be. I think one of our previous chairmen, the Hillwood guys, Dennis and his son Peter, they said that when you've worked hard all week, when the local people have worked hard all week, they should have enough money in their pocket to go down to Highbury, go down to Arsenal, and pay just nothing extortionate at the turnstiles to go in and watch a match and forget their troubles and enjoy a Saturday afternoon. Now the sort of big boys are in. There's almost no day of the week that your team can't be playing, which is mad. I mean, if you've got a season ticket and you've got a job, and many people do are in London, that you can be pulled in at any sort of crazy hour, and then there might be a match coming up, and you can't do it. You've got a staff meeting. You've got this. You have to go to a course up in Leeds or something. So it doesn't seem to match what people are doing current life in 21st century London, you know. I don't know. I don't like what's happened to the game, and I don't like the fact that we're just making somebody who's already eye-wateringly rich even richer, and it isn't benefiting us. I mean, he can toddle off with as much money as he wants, but if he made it a little, the experience a little bit more welcoming, you know, somewhere to go after the game, where you can sit down, have a few drinks with your friends, look at the highlights, you know, make it a better experience. When we first moved into the stadium, they used to do that. I don't know if you remember, they used to have a part of the under the West Stand, I think it was, where they'd have a little stage, and after every match they'd have an ex-player get up and talk about, you know, John Radford, Brendan Batson, probably Liam Brady if I remember rightly, but they certainly had different players come up, and Charlie George, and you could shake their hand and ask them questions, and it was always interesting. You buy yourself a pint and stand there, and then by the time they've done their thing and you've enjoyed meeting them, then the crowd for the tube has gone down, and you can go off home. But at the moment, they're not making the experience very pleasurable, and they take your money and kick you out into the cold when it's over. I don't think that's good enough in this day and age, and the club could be well advised to look at that kind of thing.
Well, Jamaican Gunner says that the Kroenkes realise that the fan base is weak and divided, and no matter what, they'll still be going to games. And my brother says, go on.
I'm going to say to that person, one of the worst things I ever heard in recent years out of Kroenke and Josh Kroenke's mouth is that they give people labels, and in society labels are very, very dangerous, because once they've got you labeled, they've got you corralled into a group. And if you were a fan that was over the age of, say, 35, you were known as a legacy fan. Right, so you can bet they've sat down and thought, right, these are the young fans, they're malleable, we can manipulate them, and these are the legacy fans who remember the good old days, the George Graham days, the Arsene Wenger days. These are the legacy fans. They're going to be a problem, but don't worry, they won't be around forever. And once they've gone, the young boys will come through, and they'll be used to very rarely winning anything, but they'd have established a habit, and we can fleece them for, you know, the famous one is the kit. When I started watching Arsenal, they said in the programme, you know, we have a policy of not changing the kit more than once every 3 or 4 years. Great, lovely, fine. Now, then they said eventually, about 10 years ago, we'll change the kit, but only once every 2 years. So we'll change the home kit 1 year, the following year it'll be the away kit. And then, so you can basically, if you buy a kit for your son or daughter, it'll last 2 years. Now, they not only changed the kit every year, and some of the kits are hideous. One was almost orange at one point. Not only do they do that, but halfway through the year, they've got this new training kit, which is based on a Piccadilly line tube seat fabric. This is just people sitting down. How can we fleece these guys of more money? That's mad. That's just rampant sort of profiteering, and that's bad news. And I don't like it, and it shouldn't be around.
I'm going to go to this last.
Actually, comment. Alex.
Yeah, go.
I've known the Arsenal fan base to be the most loyal and the most passionate. That's why they are exploiting the fan base. I've not seen one Arsenal fan leave the club to support another club when we are doing badly. But I've seen other fans in some other clubs leave their clubs and join other clubs that are doing better. But even today, a Man United fan told me that if there is a fan base that is loyal and passionate about their club, it is the Arsenal fan base.
Yeah.
We are loyal and we are so passionate about this club. That is why we are being exploited each and every time. It's like we need someone, we need someone who could marshal the fan base. We don't have that. I'm afraid there are other clubs who are rivals and they have someone who can marshal their fan base and they say no to this and it is a no. As Arsenal fans, there is a research that was done that the Arsenal fan base is made of softies, and that is trickling down to our players. We have a lot of softies in the club. We need to have that steel in us. We need someone who can marshal us and say no. If there is someone who could come up and say, we are going to strike and we are not going to visit or to attend any matches until you remove this issue of going to hike the prices by 4%. I'm sure it could go down to 2% or it could go down to where it was totally.
But who's that person? You mean does that person have to be someone on the board level, or you mean someone from the I don't know, the Arsenal Supporters Trust? Who's that person going to be?
That's why we need fan representation in the board. Someone who could air views, and it should be someone who speaks the mind of the fan base, not someone who will be in the board to please the board.
But Isaac, sorry to jump in there, but you have to remember that we had annual general meetings, and I had two people across the road from me who had a share each. A husband and wife bought each other a share, so they used to go along to the annual general meeting. They used to bring me back all the documentation. You'd have the facts and figures of how much the expenditure was and so on. And Kroenke never used to actually say anything. He's, of course, the silent stand routine, and he'd let Sir Chips Keswick or somebody take the flak. And then was it one of them said, it might be one of the Hillwoods, thank you for your interest in our business. They aren't interested in us at all. Excuse me. Yeah.
Then we have to make them realize that we are as much as important as this club. Because if it were not for the fans going to the stadium to watch these games now and again, then they raise no revenue. Now that we are not in Europe, they are trying to milk each and every single penny that is left in us. Because if we were, believe me, if we were in Europe, there could be funds. So they need not to milk more from our pockets. But now that we are not in European football, they are trying to milk more. Because they were used to us being in European football, so they were used to huge amounts of incomes or revenues. Now they have been out of European football for 5 years, and now they want to look elsewhere to find the funds, and that elsewhere they found it to be the fan base, changing the kit now and again so that you can buy the kit, and now raising the ticket price. We need one voice to stand as a voice. And I hope soon I'll be able to visit Alex so that I'll start marshalling up the fan base.
But Isaac and tell, with modern day football clubs, do clubs really need the fan base with all the sponsorship deals, the broadcasting rights? There's a sufficient flow of income coming to the club. Do they really need fan base? They don't, do they?
No.
Yeah.
We're there to provide the atmosphere. That's what we're there for. Because as a proportion of the club's income, what comes through the turnstiles is minimal. So we're there to. That's why they're subsidising away support, because it costs the earth to. I mean, but people in Clare, I think the trains have a little bit cheaper in Ireland than the trains in England. It's extortionate to go anywhere by train. And if you go to an away game, everybody that I know that goes to away games, whether it's their Fulham or Arsenal supporters or anybody, they all drive. 4 of them get into a car, share the petrol. So basically, people are being ripped off from the beginning until the end. And in terms of away matches, they want us there. Otherwise, you wouldn't have that massive kind of, if you like, A versus B, you know, that confrontation between the two sets of fans. And so at the Emirates, we're there to provide the oohs and the ahs and all of that background noise, which is fine, and we're happy to do it. But we're not a financially, unless you're at club level, and what's the one beyond that? Diamond level, is it diamond level?
Yeah.
You know, platinum level as well. There's a platinum level. Those are the guys that are paying big money, and they get. Is it Pierre White, the chef, produces the food, and they get the prawn sandwiches and all that stuff.
So I've got a comment there from my brother. It says, I suggest that LTEL be our people fans champion to put things right.
Hey. Well, I'm splitting my time at the moment between County Clare and London, and my hurling team hasn't got a lot. Well, it's not mine. It's, if anything, it's Tim's. Tim Hogan. You should get Tim on with me when I'm down there in Scariff, because he's a tactical genius and he knows sport really well. And yeah, you know, myself and Tim are great pals, and we're going to be there. We've only got 4 matches this season for if we do it with the under 14s. But yeah, grassroots sport is really important. I think everybody who follows Arsenal should also follow some sort of grassroots sport. You know, go and watch their local team play. I think I was telling you about my son plays in a team, and they play in, I don't know what league it is, but they play at the AstroTurf in Market Road. You know there. And I go along and I do co-commentary. They broadcast it live.
So you kept that quiet?
No, I didn't mean to. No, I've been going for about, I don't know, 6 weeks, and they're all lads that went to his school. Well, about 2/3 of them went to St. Ignatius up in Enfield, and the rest are just mates, you know. And got a goalkeeper from Cornwall and different things, and it's great watching them. And they play 7-a-side, so there's no offsides, but there's a hell of a lot of running. These guys are unbelievably fit. And it's just great to be back down at grassroots sport. If you go, I'm sure they've got this in parts of where Isaac is from. You get these pitches, and there's matches going on every single pitch. And my son's team will be sort of 20 minutes aside, I think it is, and then the next lot come on, and then the next lot come on. You know, and that's magic. It's magic to go and watch a grassroots sport. And I would advise anybody that's an Arsenal fan but lives out somewhere, like, I don't know, you know, if there's a local match going on, support it and give them a few bob going through the turnstiles, and enjoy your sort of local teams, you know.
Before I go to actually Isaac, he can talk about his project that he's been working on, because he's got his own football team. There's been a massive contribution from someone called myexcelonline.com, and it's a super chat. Thank you for your donation. And they say the legacy theory is interesting. I've been a fan for over 30 years, since Ian Wright was a striker. For me, fans are always bigger than the shareholders. The team is always bigger, Isaac.
Yeah, the fans are bigger because, as Teo said, the atmosphere is very, very important, because you could see how games panned out during the pandemic. The games were very boring. There was no intensity. Believe me, if we played Wolves during the pandemic, this game we won 2-1, we could have not won the game. But because of the atmosphere, the fans pushing the team, we eventually scrapped the win. We came back. And it's something that has not is not in Arteta's book. If he concedes first, he doesn't win that game. And if Wolves score first, they had not lost for 42 games when they scored first. But you can imagine, we put that aside and we won. So the fan base, whether the Kroenkes or the Abramovich agrees, the fan base is very, very important. And you can understand that even in this platform, we met because we are Arsenal fans.
Yeah.
You can imagine how this game has united us all over the world. So the fan base is always important. They provide the atmosphere, and they are also providing the fans, despite the fact that maybe the owners aren't seeing how much we are providing, because when you subscribe to watch Arsenal, they have given that they have the rights to the broadcasting rights. So when you subscribe, you are contributing to that. When you are buying that jersey, you are contributing to that. When you are leaving your home, getting into your car and going to that match, you are obviously contributing to that. So we are as important as we should be taken. We are so much important.
Tell. John says, Tel for president.
I've got to say, bringing it back to the story of Ukraine, wasn't it wonderful for the president or the prime minister of Ukraine to say, don't hang pictures of me on the wall, hang pictures of your children and your family on the wall. And when you make decisions, make it for them. And maybe they should do that in the Arsenal boardroom. They should say, get some pictures of some fans up there and say, when we make decisions, we're making them for this man and his wife and his kids, because that's the lifeblood of the club. You know, yes, we love winning the trophies and all of that, but start thinking, Arsenal, about the average fan, the experience that you're giving the average fan, and don't keep picking their pockets and charging crazy price. If you know at half time you can get a bottle of beer, that's normally the easiest way to do it, because if you wait for them to pour a pint, you'll be there forever. So you get this bottle of beer. I forget what it was when I was there last, but it's probably a £5. Of course, you don't have time to even drink it then. And I'll never forget, in the old stadium, my mate Solly, Irish guy, he this is in the old stadium, and he got himself a bottle of something, you know, of beer, and he sneaked it back in into the stadium, and we were watching the match from the East Stand Upper, the old Highbury, and the next minute the stewards came out of it everywhere. Give me that bottle, you can't have that, and all that. I know they're worried that you're going to chuck it and whack somebody on the head, but then do something and make the beer, make it such that, you know, they do it at club level. The beers are all sitting there for you. But if you want to get a beer or a hot dog or something, they're extortionate prices, and you don't have time in the 15 minutes to queue up and get it. It's all wrong. There's something they haven't thought about. The fans' experience is the way I look at it.
And so Tim says, greetings to all from Dublin's North Side. Terry getting involved in more grassroots sports, I see.
Well, Tim gave me the heads up on that with this under 13 hurling team in Scariff. And greetings to anybody who's from the Clare Arsenal Supporters Club. And hopefully a few of you will contribute and get to know Alex and Isaac and myself. And we're all part of a global fan club for Arsenal.
Brilliant. And there's another donation from the English Conversation Club. Thanks, written on top of the Purple Heart. Isaac, do you talk about grassroots football? You've got your own football team, haven't you?
Yeah, I've got my own football team.
Tell us all about it, bro.
It's called the Super Lions. The team is made up of youths. I work with a lot of youths in the grassroots football because I looked at these guys. during the pandemic, schools were closed. They were all idle in the streets. And you know, in our country, or in our countries which are termed as third world countries, when people are idle, crime rates are very high. So I went back to the streets and brought these kids in because they need to have to learn life skills. They need to stay away from crime. They need to understand that education is also important, because most of them, at some point, because their parents could not afford school fees to send them to school, they could drop out of school, and the whole cycle continues. If one drops out of school, they cannot fend for themselves, and then getting married, they have their own kids, they cannot take their kids to school. You see, the cycle runs again and again and again and again. But I thought it, why not take these boys in so that I could understand what their needs are? Because you cannot just sit from afar and just in theory form understand what they need. You need to sit down with them and understand their needs. So I sat down and took their needs into consideration. So I took it upon myself to start this footballing club, and also an academy. I call it an academy nowadays, because sharpening their skills is also important as they further their studies, their education, as they also, because they are social beings, as they socialize with others and understand that as a community, this is how we're supposed to live, and as a community, or as a grown-up, this is what is expected of me. So I took that and decided to give them a platform, because most of them sitting idle, most of them not having the necessary kits to play football. I decided to give them a platform where they come together. We have the little we can afford and utilize it, so that they have the kits. Actually, I bought them one pair of jersey. That is what they've been using all through. Some of them have got their own sporting. They have got their own shoes now. Some are still playing.
Isaac, can I stop you just a second? I want to take advantage of this moment. I know I can
Yes,
see the subscriber numbers have gone through the roof, and I need to ask your permission first.
sure.
Isaac is let's say he's got his own football club, and they do need resources. So if you're watching now and you'd like to make a donation to Isaac and his football club, with the permission of Isaac, can I put your email address in a live chat, Isaac? If someone wants to make a donation or they want to communicate with you, is that okay,
Sure,
Isaac? Yeah.
sure.
Okay.
That is okay.
Continue talking, and I'll put your email address in the live chat. So continue, Isaac.
Okay. Giving them this platform, and as it is, Alex, I told you the government decided to give me a chance to work with kids. So I can see my life is revolving around these kids. So I'm trying to model grown-ups who help the society, not grown-ups who depend on the society. Because we've seen from this footballing, others can become great people, help their countries or help their communities. We've seen the likes of Mane. I give an example of Mane, because his father died because there was no hospital in his neighborhood, and he decided that he will take his earnings and build a hospital in his country. And actually, he has built a great hospital in his community. That is is an inspiration to myself, because given the fact that these boys cannot afford these footballing kits that I have to try and squeeze the little that I have to fend for them, is an inspiration that I'm taking upon myself to try and get these boys going. Because just one aspect of a human being does not make one complete. They need to be complete all round. Learning life skills, education is all involved, and they also socialize with others. So it gives them a complete human being and someone who feels the responsibility to protect the community rather than engage in crime and destroy his own community.
So there you go. Talk about grassroots. You can't get any more grassroots than that. So I've just put in Isaac's email address. So if you're wanting to make a donation or you want some more information from Isaac, send an email to Isaac's email address there. Please help the cause. Grassroots. That's where it starts. Grassroots football. Tel, do you want to say anything before we wrap up this show?
Yeah, no, it's interesting. I was thinking of the Scariff Ogonolo team. What they do is they combine the town of Scariff with the area called Ogonolo, and they managed to put together a good team. And every kid that we work with, every young lad was incredibly positive. It's an open agenda. Anybody can join and train and so on. And that's a positive. But the danger is in big cities, people can get lost. Now, I worked for over 20 years at a school very near that market estate and the AstroTurf, and the crime in that area was absolutely awful. There was, terrible things went on. And it was the young lads that grew into their teens. They didn't have anywhere to go. They hung about on street corners, and they got involved in some terrible, terrible things. I don't want to go into it, So I would say one of the things that we need to do is continue the outreach to young people, young boys, girls, young men, young women, youths, let's call them that, and find things that they can do that they feel fulfilling. And of course, youth service does its best. I used to work, I had a part-time job for youth service, and we'd work with some of these kids who do you remember that trend years ago of sniffing glue? Do you remember that was a big thing? And we worked with these kids who were getting their buzz from sniffing glue. And South Islington, down near Finsbury, not Finsbury Park, but Finsbury, and I worked with those lads, and we had some girls there as well. And we'd do a rota. We'd do football one week. We'd do their favourite. Funny enough, we do football one week. We do a craft activity. It might be something silly like making candles or something. And then the third week was cooking. And cooking was their favourite. They went nuts for cooking. And their favourite thing to cook, I mean, we'd bring on all exotic ideas, and their favourite thing to cook was a fry-up followed by apple crumble and custard. And we took them away to Kent for summer holidays and stuff, and did some interesting stuff with them. And these were young lads of 13, 14, 15, and once they got to 16 they could bunk into pubs, and then they start drinking. But it was a delight working with the young people. And yes, they have a lot of bravado at that age, but there were some very quiet ones there who just went along because it was what their brother was doing or what their friend was doing. So I think there's a lot to be said for the outreach, particularly in inner cities, and find where these kids are. And if they're hanging about on street corners, somebody needs to find out. Well, I mean, I knew a guy there that used to do a lot of this DJing in Hackney, and he'd get kids off the street there and bring them into his music studio and teach them all about DJing and making your sort of own tracks and stuff. So there are ways, but it's very underfunded. I don't want to be too political, but it's very underfunded. And wouldn't that be a wonderful thing if Arsenal, I know there is a thing called Arsenal in the community, but wouldn't it be wonderful if they took on some more of these? I'd be happy to head that up, and I can tell them where the community needs are and where these young people are hanging about on street corners and getting involved in trouble because they don't see. Do you know what the biggest problem is? They don't see any hope. They see the world full of rich people and Aubameyang and his golden Lamborghini, and they can't bridge the gap between where they are and where he is, And if you've not got a God-given talent, and there's only a few of us have those amazing talents, they get frustrated, and so they try and take a shortcut. And really, I would love to see Arsenal in the community doing even more, because this is a very rich club. Don't let Kroenke fool you. We are an incredibly rich club. We are doing some things in the community, but from the stuff I'm hearing with my ear to the ground from what people are telling me, this cost-cutting stuff has gone beyond a joke, and people are very, very upset. So come on, Arsenal, get your finger out, get the community liaison going, get the youth people to be involved, pay some people to get in there and work with these young people and give them a positive outlook on life.
Fantastic. And again, I want to sing the praise of Brother Isaac, just doing wonderful work in Kenya. And again, I've left them notice there. If you would like to make a donation and help Isaac buy, more materials and football kits and equipment, the email's right there. Send him an email and he will give you all the details that you ever want to ask. There has been some other some donations. Again, I don't know what's happened today. But Carl, Little Pot of Water says, let's talk about Kepa. Well, maybe for another day, not today.
That was so funny. That was so funny because it did feel wrong that they hold the goalkeeper back because he's obviously gone away and studied which way the penalty takers hit the ball, and he completely got it wrong. And the one thing he hadn't practiced was taking a penalty himself.
Actually, Alex, in one of the shows I said great goalkeepers aren't great pen stoppers. You look at Ramsdale, we have him as a great goalkeeper with us, but I can't recall when he saved a pen for us. You look at Mendy, he's a great goalkeeper. He's helped Chelsea a lot, but he doesn't save a pen that easily. I believe they were thinking of substituting him and bringing in Kepa because he's a great pen stopper like they did with the Super Cup, and he saved them a pen, and they won the Super Cup. Yesterday, they brought him on, and it was to their peril because pens aren't a guarantee that you are going to win a game. When you go all along to the pens, it is a 50-50 thing. You could lose or you could win. It isn't guaranteed that when you go to the penalties, you win. Give another example of the just completed AFCON. Egypt were great pen takers, and their keeper was a pen stopper. But at the end of the day, they did not win the AFCON. It is Senegal who won the AFCON. So pens are not a guarantee that someone is going to win because they have gone all the way to the pens.
Yeah. John Gunnar says, well done, Isaac. Fantastic work there. And he also says that Enfield FC, I'm a member, they are owned and run by fans. They're a good club. And another moderator says, hello, Alex, DWTT, Eltel and Isaac and the chat room. And Carl says, great hearing stories from the Arsenal point of view. I think we're done. We're done. An hour and a half of interesting talking, debating, and discussions. Abramovich, our club, like you, I'm not happy the way that things are going. They're going in the wrong direction, and I think the only people that can help and do something is us, the fans. It's only us that can do something about it. But yeah.
Apparently, you can get a cab now, and it will give you the tour of all the Russian billionaires' mansions. It's a certified tour around the West End, or as they call the area, Londongrad.
Isaac, anything you want to say before we wrap up this show? I've got to say thank you. Just really good to have you back. Like I said, when the pandemic hit, it was literally you and I doing a show almost every single day, Isaac. Anything you want to say?
I'm happy to be back, and I hope soon I'll be able to be coming on more and more often, mostly in the evenings, because right now I have a day job. Now I'll be freer in the evenings. I hope I'll be able to come more often during the evenings, because this is the club I love. Since I knew what football was, and I actually decided to support Arsenal, that decision has been the greatest decision in my life to support Arsenal, because when we go rock bottom, I believe I go rock bottom with the club. And when we're up there, I'm the happiest fan, because I know where we've come from and I know what it feels not to win for a long time. And I know what it feels to hope for the best and see that we are taking the right direction as it is, and start gaining that confidence and start being that passionate again, because football is something that can unite, that has actually united, not can unite, has united the greatest number of people. There is no sport today that has united very many people like football has done. So we are privileged to support this club. This is a big club, and we are supposed to be termed as big boys again. We've been underdogs for a long, and we need to go up top. And the way it's going, I can see us going up top. Actually, today I was sitting down, and in my mind, I did some signings for Arsenal that are supposed to be made in the summer, so that we start competing. I believe perhaps I can talk about it sometimes to come, but when we go offline, I'll tell you of the signings that I made myself in my mind, because I said we should write a letter to Arsenal. We should become their scouts, because I believe we've seen some great talent somewhere that we've talked about in this show and that are doing great. And if they were brought on and they are playing in the style that Arsenal plays, if you bring someone who plays in your style, they not struggle to fit into the system. So we should write that letter and become their scouts.
Well, I tell you what, we've got our spokesman right here, Eltel. Eltel's our spokesman.
Well, do you know what? There are some good people. John Laguna has just said about Ken Fryer being pulled off the streets as a kid kicking a football outside the old stadium. And I know Ken has the interests of the average football fan, Arsenal fan at heart. And I know for a fact that he's very concerned about all the machinations that are going on behind the scenes. This isn't a football matter. This is the way people who work for the club are being treated. So I won't go into it anymore, other than to say we do have people there, but unfortunately the directors are no longer have any power at all. They've got an office and an office door, but it's not good when you're owned lock, stock and barrel. And that's the big problem. And Abramovich, we know, is a problem. But I'm afraid, I think our boy, he may not be a Russian, but I think he's running the same oligarchical model. And only he's running one where he can't possibly lose, because he's not going to put any skin into the game. But maybe we could finish, just because I've got the sort of colours here of Ukraine, which just happens to be the sort of Clare colours there. Just a quick word for grassroots sport, which is what you can get still, as John says, Enfield FC or Clare or Scariff or Gonolo or all these different places, but please God, the poor people now that they've pulled teachers and all kinds of people from their jobs, and farmers in the field, and they've given them a rifle and said, go out and fight for your country. That's tough times. That's tough times. And please God, at some point they can get a peace, and a peace that will hold.
Brilliant. Well said, Tel. And Isaac, I've got to say, big thank you to both of you. I thought, we'll do like an early show, because I've got to be on another platform later on. But I tell you what, this show has been, again, it's been one of the best. So interesting, with a capital N. Again, anyone who's interested in supporting Isaac and his team, because he's got his own club, send Isaac an email. The email is right there. If you want to make a donation, send Isaac an email right there, and he'll give you all the details. Guys, I don't know what to say. Where do we go from here, Isaac? Where do we go?
We prepare.
Buy more merchandise.
We prepare to bring them the best again.
Yeah. I feel emotional, man. I feel emotional. So that's it. That's the end of another Canon project. Monday, an earlier show as usual. Usually it's like 5:30, but I've got to be on another platform in just over an hour's time. But before I wrap up this one, I want to say a big thank you to Isaac and your father. Is your father still there? Or your brother?
He's just left. He's just left.
He's just left. Yeah. All right. Got to get him on the show as well, Isaac.
I'll try, but he's not a great English speaker as I am.
All right. So we need to practice our Swahili at some stage.
Yeah, I'll probably develop some Swahili classes for the Canon fodder.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
Well, I'll give you lads a little bit of Irish to finish. Antar Abu, up County Clare. Hey,
there you go. So that's it from Canon 4A TV. Again, thank you to my panelists. Wonderful content. Getting a little bit emotional. Eltel, I guess we might see both of you maybe on the Easy Talk this Friday. Who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? Yeah. There we go. Anyway, from Canon 4A TV to everyone's watch, I just see the numbers. The numbers of viewers has just gone through the ceiling. Again, if you would like to make a donation to Isaac's cause and his club, let me put it up here quickly again. If you would like to make a donation, please send an email to Isaac. His email address is right there. Do the right thing. Grassroots level football. That's where it starts. Anyway, we're done here. Before I start to cry here. Eltel, thank you for doing the teleporting and merch. And Isaac, wonderful stuff there. I hope you enjoyed the live show here on this wonderful platform of ours. It's not mine, it's not yours, it is ours. And you have been listening to Canon Fodder, the channel for Arsenal fans.